Good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of the day, today is Thursday, and we are holding the fifth reading of the portion of Parashat Shmini. We are in chapter 10, verse number 16 of the book of Leviticus. It's Asar Achatas, and so what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu came to the Beis Hamikdash after the whole story that day. What was happening? The two sons of Aaron must have been a hectic day, and suddenly Moshe came. Darash. He went to investigate. Being a Saraf, he found out that the goat of offering of for the sin, it was burnt. Rashi will explain. So he angered at his nephews, Eliezer and his son, and his Sarim, who were left over from the two sons who passed away. Lamer saying. So Rashi says the he goat of the Rosh Chodesh Musaf, right? Because today, that day was Rosh Chodesh. It was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So besides all the sacrificial offering that were brought that day for the Kehanim and for the dedication of the temple, there was also the offering of the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. On Rosh Chodesh, you need to bring a carbon Musaf, you need to bring a extra offering of the day. So on that day, the Chodesh Nisan, 3 sin offering goats were sacrificed. Number 1, take the he goat of the sin offering, the he goat of Nachshon. Nachshon ben Nadav was the one who brought the carbon on the first day, and the he goat of the extra Chodesh. So there were 3 goats that were brought that day for a sin offering. Now, all of these, the only one burnt was this one. This additional offering is a Chodesh. And why did he burn it? The ages of Israel are divided on this matter. In the Gemaras, because the question is, and Moshe Rabbeinu also challenged Aaron, why was it burnt? Some say it was burnt because of account of uncleanliness that had come in contact with it, while others say because somebody died, while others said 2 sons of Aaron died, while others said it was burnt because Aaron's sons were anonim, they were mourners, because the sacrifice came in the category of holy sacrifice that would be sacrificed in the future generations. So there were 2 kind of sacrifices that were happening here today. So the he goat for the Rosh Chodesh, the chatas, the sin offering of Rosh Chodesh, was going to be an offering that would be sacrificed forever. Every Rosh Chodesh to eternity. That's what we daven Musaf on Rosh Chodesh for cause of this goat. So, but the other sacrifices that were done that day, the other 2 sacrifices of the sin offering that day for the Kehanim and for Nachshon was only done once in history, and that was that day. So Nachshon ben Aminadav was the only one who brought it that day. So it was not for days, for generations. So that was the question. The argument was, do you bring a sacrifice, if it's for that day and never ever happened, then you bring the sacrifice. But if it was a sacrifice that could have been brought next month, this Chodesh year, do you bring the sacrifice? And that was the argument. This was the argument in Moshe and Aaron. What do you do with the carbon, with the sacrifice that would be brought in the future again? Do you do it when there is aninus, when there's somebody passed away in the Kehanim family, especially Aaron HaKohen, or not? This was the argument. However, when they came to the holy sacrifice that it brought only at that time, like the other 2 goats that were brought for Nachshon and Aminadav, was only brought that time for the dedication of the temple, and for the Kohen's dedication of the temple, which only happened then. It was not brought again. They relied on Moshe, who said to them that you have to eat it. So Moshe Rabbeinu told them, even though you're mourners, you're not like regular mourners. Regular mourners are not allowed to eat. If there were a kohen in the future that would die, they would not have allowed to eat the sacrifice because they're mourners. But you guys are different. You guys got to eat it. You got to this dedication to the temple, and you cannot stop, so to say, the celebration, and you need to continue to eat it. But they did that for the 2 goats of sin offering, but this they did not do it for. And even though they were earning him, assuming that the meal offering was brought only at the time, so must Moshe command apply only to the holy sacrifice brought at that time only. But since this sacrifice, the chatas, the sin offering of the month, would be brought in the future, they felt that Moshe Rabbeinu's law, so to say, he misinterpreted the law. Darash. Why does it say double darash? This double expression is 2 investigations. Moshe asked, why was the sacrifice burnt? Why wasn't it eaten? And why are the sacrifice not eaten? Why have the other sacrifice not been eaten? Thus taught in the Torah's Kohanim. Also, you know, darash is exactly half of the Torah in words. Darash is the first darash is the part of the first half of the Torah in words, and the second darash is the second half of the Torah in words. It's exactly in the middle of the Torah. Darash. Interesting. Eliezer Elisama. So why was he angry at Eliezer and Elisama? Why didn't he be angry at Aaron? Aaron was his older brother. And to show respect to Aaron, Moshe turned towards his nephew. And he angered on his nephews. Nephews and they were younger than him. But he didn't do it to Moshe Rabbeinu, respected his older brother. Lamer Amalehem, he said to them, I'm not asking a question for the sake of a question. I'm asking a question that you should answer me the question. So the question is, verse 17. Why didn't you eat the sin offering? The Malkum Kodesh, in the holy place. I told you have to eat the sin offering in the Beis Hamikdash. Ki Kodesh Kedoshim, because it's holy of holies. And this was given to you. I'm not asking you why did you eat, because by eating the sacrifice, you're going to forgive the Jewish nation. So now you have done you've done something negative. You didn't eat it, and now we're not going to be forgiven because you did not eat it. So why didn't you eat it? L'chapa aleim l'fnei Hashem, to forgive them. So now she explains, but they had eaten it outside the holy place. What do you mean? Why did you eat in the holy place? Had they not burnt it? I mean, they didn't eat it anywhere. What then did Moshe mean when he said, why didn't you eat in the holy place? He didn't eat it at all. But by phrasing the question in this way, Moshe was asking Aaron's son, perhaps that sacrifice went out of the hangings of the courtyard. That was the problem. Moshe Rabbeinu said, maybe by mistake you took it out of the Beis Hamikdash and it became invalid. That was the question. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to think that he didn't specifically eat it. So Moshe Rabbeinu was giving them a leeway out. He said, almost probably you didn't eat it because it went out of the Beis Hamikdash. The Kodesh Kadoshim, because it's holy of holies, and we become invalid, Rashi says, because it went out of the hangings. They answered him, no. It didn't. That's not true. It didn't go out of the Beis Hamikdash. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to, well, since it remained holy, why didn't you eat it? So then why didn't you eat it? For the Kehanim, Rashi says, eat the sacrifice, and thereby the owners granted atonement. So therefore, not only did you eat the sacrifice, now you haven't granted atonement to the Jewish people. To gain forgiveness of the sinner community, from here we learn that the he-goat that was burnt was the he-goat of Rosh Chodesh, which atones the sins of uncleanliness concerning the sanctuary and its holy food. For the sin offering, the 8th day of investors, and the sin offering and Nachshon and others were not brought to effect atonement. So Rashi says this proves that this we are talking about the 3rd he-goat, not the he-goat for the Kehanim that they were invested into the temple, not the he-goat for Nachshon, because that didn't bring atonement on the Jewish people. But the 3rd he-goat, the Chatas of Rosh Chodesh, was the one that he was focused on. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to know why that korban, Chatas, that came to bring forgiveness on the Jewish people, would not have been eaten. Verse 18. Behold, its blood was not brought into the sanctuary within. Again, if you learned, blood is the 2 kinds of sin offering. One sin offering was the blood's brought into the temple, like Yom Kippur, or the sin offering of a community, the sin offering of the Sanhedrin. So that blood was brought into the holy of into the Beis Hamikdash, sprinkled the blood on the altar that's inside. That I understand that has to be totally burnt. But this is not the same sin offering. So he gave them another leeway out. He said, maybe my Rashi, see Rashi. Since it was not that kind of a chatos, you should have eaten it. But kodesh in the Beis Hamikdash, kashet tzivei, as I commanded you to do. So Rashi says, for if the blood had been brought into the holy, then indeed you would have been required to burn it. As it said, but the sin offering, some of those bloods which are brought into the tent to mean, like the korban, the chatas of Yom Kippur, is not eaten, is burnt. The chatas of a mistake of the Sanhedrin is burnt. Why? Because the blood is brought into the temple. But you didn't do that. This blood of this sacrifice was not brought into the temple. The blood was sprinkled on the altar outside. So why didn't you eat it? So you should have surely eaten it, even though you're einin him, even though you're in the laws of a mourner. Because kashetzi vesi, because I commanded you that even though you're mourning, today is the day of your brother passed away, you are nevertheless obligated to eat it. As I told you about the meal offering. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu is demanding an answer why they didn't eat it. So Aaron turned to Moshe and he said to him, Hein hayoim, be it but today. Hikrivas chatasim, did they offer up their sin offering? Vesei lasam, and their burnt offering. Lefnei Hashem, before God. Vatikrena oisi kehela, but if a tragic event like this had befallen me, v'achalti chatas hayom, and I would have eaten this korban chatas, hayete be'ein Hashem, would have been pleased in the eyes of the Lord. Now she says the meaning of this answer is the expression dibur, first by daber. Whenever it says the word by daber, unless followed by expression lamer, denotes boldness. Aaron responded aggressively, so to say, and the people that spoke by daber, Moshe, why did it bring us up from the Egypt to die in the desert? Is expression of boldness. Thus, in verse, Aaron boldly responds to Moshe's investigation. Is it possible that Moshe addressed his anger to Eliezer and so Aaron answers? So why is Aaron answering? However, this demonstrates the behavior of Aaron's sons was only out of respect. They didn't want to respond to Moshe, right? He was older than them. He was Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Moshe Rabbeinu, who was their teacher. He was their uncle. He was older than them. So they didn't want to respond to him. They could have answered also. So it was only a respect. So here you see the double respect. Moshe Rabbeinu got angry at his nephews to respect his brother. And the sons of Aaron respected their teacher because Moshe Rabbeinu was their teacher. So they did not respond to their teacher. They said it's inappropriate that while our father is sitting in front of us, we should answer in his presence. And it's also inappropriate that a disciple should refute his master. One might think that the sons did not respond because Eliezer was not capable. He did not have the courage to answer, but we know that's not true. See, so as Eliezer the Kohen spoke to the men of the army. Eliezer was not afraid to answer. He was a smart person, and when he needed to come to say something, he said something. Thus, we see that Eliezer wanted to. He spoke before Moshe and before the princes. I found this explanation of the second version of Shizafri, and therefore they didn't respond. The sons of Aaron didn't respond out of respect to their uncle. And therefore, Aaron responds. What does he respond? But today they did offer. What does he say? He could have simply said, such tragic events like these have befallen me. Rather, Moshe said to them, did you perhaps sprinkle the blood while you were oinim? And you probably know that an oinim who performs a service renders that's invalid. So Aaron answered, that's not true. They did do the service. Hey, Mekrivu. They did do the service, meaning, but who offered up the sacrifice? They are ordinary Kohanim, who the law of invalidation by an oinim applies. I offered them up, for I am a Kohen Gadol, and a Kohen Gadol is permitted to offer sacrifice while he's an oinim. So therefore, I don't know all this because Moshe Rabbeinu taught it to him. So he said, listen, what are you screaming at them? You have to scream at me. I was the one who brought the offering. So but it's tragic like these have befallen me. But by these words, Aaron was effectively saying, my point would be just as valid. Even if those who died were not my sons, but other relatives who I'm obligated to mourn as an oinim like these, such as enumerated in the Parsha of Kehanim later on, whom a Kohen may become unclean, a sister, a mother, a father. These are my sons. I surely am allowed to become unclean to them. And if I have eaten the sin offering today, meaning literally, and I ate the sin offering. However, here the meaning is, but if I have eaten the sin offering, would it be pleasing before the Lord? Hayom, today, it would not have been pleasing to the Lord. However, tonight I could have eaten it because an oinen is permitted to eat sacrifice at night. An oinen is only the laws of aninus. There's avelus and aninus. Oinen is the day of passing and burial. It's called in the halacha called an oinen. Avelus is after burial. So the different laws. So an oinen and a day of passing, he doesn't do any mitzvahs. He's not obligated in any mitzvahs. An avel, a mourner is. So when is that law? That law is only the day of passing, not at night. The day of passing, and the halach is a person that passes away needs to be buried right away that day. So it's the day of passing. So she'ein oinen, the law of aninus is only the day of burial. That day of passing and burial. So hayita be'ein Hashem, if you heard this law of an oinen may eat a holy sacrifice brought exclusively for special occasions, like the people's offering the goat of Nachshon, both offered just today. You have no right to be lenient regarding a holy sacrifice offered for future generations, as I said. So that was Aaron's question. Aaron said, you're 100% right. I was the one who brought the sacrifice. I should have eaten it. But I decided that would God be happy that I eat something that I can bring in a month from now, that I will bring in a month from now, which is the carbon of the offering of the monthly offering, the sin offering of the monthly offering. If you heard the law in concerning a sacrifice that was only done that day, but that law I don't believe would stand in a situation where the sacrifice will be brought again in the future. And as we learned previous Rashi, That was the argument between Moshe and Aaron. And here we see the greatness of Moshe. Yishma Moshe, and Moshe Rabbeinu listened to this argument of Aaron. Vayita ve'edav, he says, "You're right. You're right, and you're right." So Rashi says this teaches us Hoida v'loy boish. He was a teacher. He gave them the lessons, but that's where the expression of Talmud, Talmid Yesemikum, I've learned more from my students than anybody else. Because here, Aaron, who was a student, taught Moshe Rabbeinu something. So Moshe admitted that Aaron was correct. You're right. And was not ashamed. We not cover up by saying, I have not heard this law. Moshe frankly said to Aaron, you are right. I did hear that an Oinim must not eat sacrifice that we offered future generations. But I forgot. And you have now taught me. What it says, that's one of the lessons of not getting angry. Moshe Rabbeinu got angry. He forgot the law. An Einan is a mourner of the day. That's what Einan is, a period. Einan is a mourner of the day. An Avel is a mourner of 11 months. So 11, 12 months. Einan is the mourner of a day, the day of burial, which is usually in Torah, it would be the day of passing. That completes the Chumash of the day. We now go to the Tanya of the day. We're holding a new Perek in Tanya, chapter 38, I believe. Yeah. In the previous chapters, the Alter Rebbe discussed the distinctive merit of mitzvahs performed by speech and action. For by means of them, the vitalizing soul is elevated to holiness. Right? We explained the difference between limud HaTorah. No, he's not an Einan for days. If he's not buried until a couple of days, it wouldn't be the same law. Mitzvah is the ability that they have performed with the power of the vitalizing soul, that veifies the physical limbs that perform them. Oh, I'm sorry, let me take that back what I just told you. Or the day of burial, really. It's the day of burial. So if it's a couple of days later, then the Aninus is a day of burial. That's really the law of Aninus. A person's busy on the day of burial. And it's very hard for him to focus on Torah mitzvahs when it's the day of the burial, which is usually the first day, but it could be, you're right, it could be the second or third day, but then the Aninus will be on the day of burial. The mitzvah ability that informed the power of vitalizing soul verifies the physical limbs that perform them, and the physical tongue and the lips to utter the words of Torah and prayer. And that's what the Alter Rebbe said. The mitzvah of tzedakah is the greatest mitzvah because it takes in the whole existence of a human being. Since the ultimate intent of the soul's descent is not for the sake of the soul alone, but in order to elevate the vitalizing soul, the animal soul, and the corporal body. This is accomplished simply through mitzvahs. And that's the power of a mitzvah. So even though the Alter Rebbe spoke of the greatness of Torah, and there's nothing greater than learning Torah as we ended chapter 37, but the most important thing is action, because for this world, the most important thing is action. So for the soul, the elevation of the soul and the connection of the soul to the God is the greatest thing is Torah. But the soul didn't come down to will for itself. The soul came down for the world to elevate the body. And since the soul came down to the world to elevate the body, then the body needs to have mitzvahs. And the world needs mitzvahs because the body is in the world. So according to what I explained, according to what we explained, that is the concept of the world and the concept of the soul, of one's inner aspect of his being, his seichel, his intellect, and his midas. Now you'll understand. You'll understand the law which is brought down in halacha. And what's the law? General law. The hiru because that halachic decision expressed stated in Talmud in the codes of law that meditation is not valid in lieu of vertebral articulation. If you're going to meditate in godliness and not say the words of prayer, you haven't done the mitzvah. If somebody would read the Shema in his mind, or believe by levad, and in his heart alone, with all the strength of his mind, he hasn't done the obligation. He hasn't done the mitzvah of Krishma. He's obligated to say, we are obligated to say the Shema twice a day. If I didn't say it with my mouth, I haven't done the mitzvah. And you have to read it again. So all my meditation in Krishma will not accomplish the mitzvah saying Krishma. And so too with making a bracha birchas hamazon when I'm going to do grace after meal, which the Torah obligates you to do that. It says, you will eat, you'll be satisfied, and you will thank God. You'll make a blessing of thanking God. You need to say that verbally. You need to vocalize it. So too, with davening. You can't sit and daven. You need to hear your davening. You don't have to say it so loud that the whole building hears it. You need to daven that you can hear the words of your mouth. Right? Look at the Rebbe. The Rebbe comments, as I mentioned yesterday, here the Rebbe commenting something on this teaching, comments that the halacha poses no interesting difficulty, since one can no more ask why God stipulated that a particular thought, the Shema, pray and like, must be verbalized, then one can ask why the mitzvahs were ordained at all. However, we must understand, why is it when a mitzvah is composed of both speech and thought? The law states that verbalization without intent does fulfill the obligation. Intent without verbalization does not. Why wouldn't it work in any other mitzvah? It works. Why would it work? Why over here you need to have both? Or you need to have what? You need to have the verbalization. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe, for this reason, that Alter Rebbe continues the question as follows: If on the other hand, he spoke the words of Shema, but did not concentrate his thought, he was thinking of something else. He is done post facto, fulfilled his obligation with the evidence. And although he initially required him to concentrate, need not to repeat them with concentration. So even though you should have concentration in everything that you say, but if I didn't have any concentration, I do not need to repeat it. Besides the first verse of Shema, and the first blessing of the Shemoneh Esrei. So in davening, if I daven the whole daven, and I was thinking about something else, Al Pi Halacha, you don't daven again. You don't say the brachas again. Besides, you have to say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You got to know what you're saying. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is God. The Lord is one. I have to have understanding in that statement. If not, I have to say it again. The first blessing of the Shemoneh Esrei, Magen Avraham, I have to understand the meaning of that blessing. That's it. The rest of the davening, if I had no concentration, as long as I said it, I did the mitzvah. If I had all the concentration and I didn't say it, I didn't do the mitzvah. In the Issa V'Reish Sechta B'Brachas, it's brought down the Gemara. Ad Kam Mitzvah Kavana. Until the end of the first verse of the Shema, the mitzvah is one of the concentration. From here and on, mitzvah kriya. From there and on, the mitzvah is reciting it. And one fulfills his obligation even if he did not concentrate. How then do we reconcile both halachas? Why is thought without speech not acceptable as speech without thought? The answer lies in the discussion of the unique stature of the mitzvah formed in action and speech, as explained in the previous time. The reason is because you came to daven to rectify the world. That's what your davening accomplished. And that's why you need to say it. When you learn, you can sit and learn with your mind. Because you're learning for your neshama. But you're davening for the world. This is because the divine soul does not need perfect itself through mitzvahs. The purpose of a mitzvah of davening is that you rectify your animalistic soul, and that only is accomplished through your verbalization, using your mouth. Rather, the goal of the mitzvah is to draw God's light into light to perfect the vital soul and the body. And how do you do that? That is accomplished by the means of the letters of speech. That my animalistic soul, which is my vital soul, speaks. Not only speaks everything else, but speaks the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the word of God. With the 5 organs of the verbal articulation, and through the mitzvah of action, and so through to the concept of mitzvah, which the soul performs through the other means of the organs of the body. That's why it's so important to do mitzvahs, because then we are using out the animal soul and the vital soul to do a mitzvah, to do God's will. So besides that, the animal soul and my talking is used for everything else out in the world that is ungodly and sometimes the opposite of godliness, I should use it out for the concept of godliness. So that's why the halacha says, Hirur lav kedibur. Thought is not speech. It's a wonderful thing, thought. But it's not speech. Because speech is going to transform the world, and thought is not. So the mitzvah involves speech and action, which utilizes the power of the vital soul and the organs of the body, serves to elevate them. Since the ultimate goal is the perfection of the vital soul and the body, thought alone, being the province of the divine soul, cannot satisfy the divine demands of mitzvahs of speech. They require verbal articulation. Speech alone, however, without thought is insufficient, since the vital soul and the body are elevated thereby. So we need to have both. And that's why you need both. You need to have thought and you need to have speech. But ultimately, through speech is the way it's done. So thought alone is mamish nothing to the vital soul, but speech is ultimately saying the words of Torah. If you can put thought in it, then you have actually done you have brought about two concepts together, and you have accomplished a perfect union between your godly soul and your vital soul. If you're not going to have any thought, then there'll be elevation of you're forcing your body to do something that he's not really he doesn't really want to do, but he's doing it. He's saying the words of Torah, and he's saying the words of davening, which is an unbelievable thing. He wouldn't have done it if you wouldn't say those words. And that's what the truth is. You should all learn Hebrew to be able to say the actual words of davening, not say it in English. That's not the way the Chacham, even though if you cannot daven in English, in Hebrew, you should daven in English. But the best thing would be to learn Hebrew, break your teeth on the Hebrew, and say the words of David HaMelech and the words of the Torah, so that you actually say those words physically with your mouth and express yourself in that kind of a way. That completes the Tanya of the day. Today is the 21st day of the month, which is chapter 104 and 105 of Tehillim. Say the 104 and 5 Psalms, and you would do the Chitas of the day. Wish you all a good day. I want to invite everybody, 10 o'clock. We're going to have, we haven't had it for a couple of weeks. We're going to have the class in the learning of the teaching of the Rebbe on the portion of the week. And that's going to be at Chabad, or on Zoom, or on Torah, Facebook, TorahDirect.com. I wish you all a wonderful, beautiful, happy, and healthy, phenomenal day.